Good afternoon. Thank all of you for being here today. As all of you know, the Committee on Infractions issued a report today stemming from last year's allegations involving David Saunders, a former University of Louisiana at Lafayette assistant football coach. The committee's findings validate that there was no lack of institutional control by the university, no failure to monitor, and no lack of head coach responsibility by Mark Hudspeth. The committee also determined that Coach Hudspeth, his staff, and his student athletes are not culpable for the NCAA infractions. Based on these reasons, the Ragin Cajun's football program received the lowest level of penalties for level 1 violations within the NCAA's penalty structure, while imposing the most severe penalties on Coach Saunders. In its response to the notice of allegations, the university's self-imposed penalties, which included vacating 2011 football season, reducing football scholarships, and reducing recruiting activities. The university also proposed that the NCAA place the program on probation for 2 years. The NCAA has accepted the self-imposed sanctions by the university. Additional penalties to the university by the committee include vacating any games in 2012 through 14 in which an ineligible student athlete participated in, which is consistent with their protocol, a $5,000 fine, and an additional year of recruiting restrictions. The penalties do not include a postseason ban. I want to repeat that one again. The penalties do not include a postseason ban. Due to lack of credible evidence, the university respectfully disagrees with the NCAA's findings that Coach Saunders made cash payments to a student athlete. Under the appeals process, even if the university were to prevail, the result would not likely change the sanctions against the university. Therefore, the university will not appeal this report today. The university agrees with the findings that resulted in invalid ACT scores. However, due to the failure to detect improper test administration or exam results at one of its Mississippi testing sites, failure to timely investigate the matter, and failure to notify the NCAA or UL Lafayette of exam score improprieties, the university chose to file a lawsuit against ACT Inc. I think we have handouts of that are available for everybody here, so please feel free. There's plenty of information on that lawsuit available. Our university strives to comply with NCAA standards and maintains a comprehensive rules compliance program. Throughout the entire process, we cooperated fully with the NCAA. We committed to finding the truth ourselves through our own investigation, and as stated before, self-imposing significant sanctions on our football program. We stand behind the professionalism and the vigilance of our compliance staff. We stand behind the integrity and the accomplishments of Coach Hudspeth and the other members of the coaching staff. And we also stand behind the student athletes who played during the Hudspeth era and their many outstanding achievements. The staff's professionalism, vigilance, and integrity were recognized and appreciated by the Committee on Infractions. In short, they say, in the report they say, and I quote, "In short, the institution's exemplary cooperation in this case was a model for the kind of relationship and cooperation member institutions should strive for in the infractions process." It's a great quote. It's an absolutely great quote. Unfortunately, even with the most vigilant and comprehensive compliance programs, we cannot prevent all acts of misconduct. Still, this has happened in our program, and we take full responsibility. While victories have been vacated, it is impossible to erase the memories that's in the spark that was ignited when Brett Baer hit that 50-yard field goal. You can never take that away. That emotion will always be there. As I have always said, the most important thing for any athletics department is to provide coaches what they need to recruit quality athletes and provide athletes what they need to succeed in the classroom and in competition. Academically, our dedicated student athletes continue to graduate at an incredible rate. We have led the Sun Belt Conference and all public institutions in the state of Louisiana in the last 3 years in our graduation rate. We have also built a strong foundation for future success for the entire department with the completion of facility upgrades that include the south end zone of Cajun Field, the soccer track complex, and of course this new 100,000 square foot student athlete performance center. In addition to those, several projects are already, new projects are already underway. Renovation to the baseball stadium started last month and will significantly upgrade the game day experience at the Teague. The softball program also recently started construction on a new indoor hitting facility. Following this season, the Cajun Dome will undergo transformation that will improve the fan experience at all men's and women's basketball games. Our facilities are not the only area of athletics growth. Season tickets for all sports are the highest in the department's history. The RCAF also set a new record in 2015 for the annual fund contributions for the 7th consecutive year. I want to thank our donors and our fans for your support throughout this process. Your passion has been an integral part of our success and will continue to be as we move forward. As Ragin Cajuns, we are strong, we persevere, and as our fight song says, we fight on. Our greatest days are still ahead. I want to thank Dr. Savoy and Coach Hudspeth for all their help and cooperation during this process. Both of them are out of town today and unable to attend. That's why they're not here. Dr. Savoy is on his way to the NCAA convention, annual convention, and Coach Hudspeth is at the Football Coaches Association convention interviewing possible offensive coordinators. So both of them wanted to be here and it wanted me to express that. For your convenience, Matt Sullivan has quotes from each of them on this subject that he will pass out to you also. Thank you for your continued support of the Ragin Cajuns. As we said in October, when we last got in front of you on this subject, that when it was over, we would open it up for questions, and we're going to do that. But a couple things in short. First of all, in order to comply with FERPA rules, we cannot and will not identify our student athletes that are referenced in this report. Okay, so please don't even ask me about them. Don't ask any of the coaches about them, sports information. We're not going to talk specific names. All right, that's one thing. Second thing, when we're done today, we're done. This draws an end to this case. It is over with. It'll be history to us, and we will move on. We've told you before, we will not let this define us. Okay, it is significant. We took it serious, but now it's time to move on and continue to build a great program at UL. Okay.
Okay, we'll open up for questions. Please raise your hand and we'll get to you. Dave Schultz.
Without being able to read the lawsuit just quickly, what are you expecting? What does the lawsuit ask for, and what are you hoping for?
Dave, I encourage you just to take the time when we're done here and go through that very thoroughly. I think all that is going to be answered very clearly there. If you have questions after that, then we'll get those to our
Would you be so kind
Aaron Martin's office.
Paragraph or two?
Well, obviously, we think there's that there is another entity that could have stopped some of this from taking place on our campus. An entity that presidents around the country rely on to validate scores that are used for entrance into universities and for scholarships and so on and so forth. And we feel that they somewhat slipped up on that responsibility.
And Scott, how much do you think not retaining Coach Saunders mitigated the penalties that you guys received?
Wow. I think it was a factor. I definitely think it was a factor. How much, I can't get in the Committee on Infractions' head. I don't really know. Obviously, wasn't behind closed doors with them, but I think they knew that we acted appropriately throughout the whole investigation. And when he failed to cooperate with us, we made the appropriate decision.
There's reference to possibly vacating some wins from the 12 and 14 seasons. I asked Ms. Cartwright about that today, and she said that it's a reinstatement issue. Where I think in y'all's original response it was that they had completed the necessary coursework to become eligible. Is that not the case with this? And when might we know about this?
Well, I don't know if I fully understand exactly what you're asking me, Luke, but let me answer it this way. It's pretty standard in athletics. In athletics at any level, if you play an ineligible player, you forfeit the game. And again, that's high school, that's whatever. So what the NCAA is telling us, if we had an ineligible player, we need to vacate those games. They played it. We, at the beginning, in our response to the notice of allegations, we only vacated 2011. We did not even really talk about 12, 13, and 14. So what this report today says is go back, see who played ineligible in 12, 13, 14, and we got to vacate those wins. I don't know exactly how many games that is at this point in time. Our compliance staff will go through that with the NCAA. I will tell you this, it's not the whole season of any of them. It's parts of the season, but it's not the whole season. Does that help?
Yes.
Stop right there.
Follow up on that, and I don't know if you can answer this, Scott, but their response was that the university hadn't applied for reinstatement for those student athletes. Now that they may not be playing here anymore, can you guys apply for reinstatement after?
No, cannot do that, no. And I think, and again, we're getting way into the weeds, Scott, I think that was only 2 athletes, I believe, that they were talking about. I think it was only in 2014. Okay, but no, we cannot go back to answer your question. We cannot go back.
Coach Schultz?
This report was supposed to be released last week. Was there anything between the university and the NCAA in the meantime?
You know, and it's in there also. It's somewhere. It might have been in a memo. There was a simple clerical error last week that was discovered. They looked at it, went, holy cow, you're right, that is a mistake. They didn't just want to take it out and go ahead and issue it last Friday at 11 o'clock. They wanted to go back and make sure that that sentence that was put in there didn't influence the committee one way or the other. So they did their due diligence. I appreciated them doing that. That's why it took a few extra days.
Scott, I understand why this couldn't be disclosed, but who does the university believe paid for the ACT exams?
We don't believe anyone paid for it. I mean, we just asked for records from Coach Saunders, and that's one of the things that he refused to give us. But we don't believe that anyone, that we paid for, Coach Saunders paid for, we don't have any knowledge of.
Could Coach Saunders not have allowed the testing center to release that information if he had signed the release?
Ask me that question again.
Could Coach Saunders not have allowed the testing center to release that information by signing the release, which is what the NCAA said he...
Well, the NCAA, I mean, we asked him to sign over if he had any involvement. The ACT could release that information to us if he had involvement. If someone over here paid, they couldn't have done that. But if he had involvement, they could have released the information.
So in light of what, if I remember correctly, you guys maintained in the response was that he did not orchestrate what happened, what's your position on that now that the NCAA has ruled? What was his level of involvement as far as the university is concerned?
Well, I think ours is the same as the NCAA's. We know certain things, and we know that he told recruits to travel a great distance away to go take an SAT at a certain site. And after taking the ACT at a certain site, their test scores significantly increased. That's what we know.
Do you know whether or not he paid to facilitate
We have
that?
no idea. We have no knowledge of that. There's no proof of that. We have no idea what happened. We just know that it was that he orchestrated getting them to that site, and they came away with very good scores.
Do you know whether or not he directed it to happen, regardless of whether there was any payment, extra payment involved or not?
We do not know. It's just very unusual for students to travel that many hours away from their home site to take a test like that.
A couple questions. The NCAA made it very clear that the former assistant coach concealed his activities, and yet they held the university responsible. Did they give any suggestions on how the university should know an assistant coach is concealing activity?
No, absolutely not, and that's why we don't have a failure to monitor or lack of institutional control. They're just punishing us because he was our employee, period. Period. They do believe, and they stated in the report, that he acted on his own, that it wasn't orchestrated by the head coach or the recruiting coordinator. There was nothing the compliance office could have done to really found this out. But he's still an employee of ours, and we're responsible for that.
also mentioned in the report, can't recruit in South Florida. What's the definition?
I'm from Central Florida, so I'd say anything below I-4, but I don't really know. I don't know. We are not anywhere near it, so I guess Coach, if he wants to get close, we'd have to get an official interpretation of that, but we're nowhere near it right now.
Understanding that you cannot name anyone, is there anyone on the current roster who has to be reinstated?
Everybody involved in this case has already gone through reinstatement and is reinstated. Everybody.
What was, when y'all officially received word from the NCAA what was going to happen today, what was y'all's reaction hearing what they thought of this game?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of varied reaction and varied emotion. I think the first thing is that we all took a huge sigh of relief that we didn't have a postseason bowl game. Okay, let's be honest. That would have been a significant thing, and so that made us feel good about all the hard work that we had done. I think they did add some more recruiting restrictions to us, which those are significant, and so we can get around them. I mean, not get around them. We can work through those. We can survive those, but it's still a significant hit to us. Personally, it's over is one of my emotions. I mean, y'all, it's been over 2 years. It's a long time, So that's one of them. You still have a lot of anger that one employee had us go through all this. One employee had tarnished this great institution, this great department. And so there's a variety of emotions, but bottom line is that we now can close the book on it, move forward, and keep building a program.
And how much do you estimate beyond what the self-imposed fine was and the additional $5,000 fine? How much this ended up or will end up costing the university, both monetarily and in terms of man hours devoted to dealing with it?
Wow, Tim, I haven't even thought that way yet. I don't know. I can't even guess that right now. I mean, we've put a lot of man hours into it, from Dr. Savoy all the way down. We've put a lot of hours into it. But no, I can't throw a number out there. I wouldn't have any idea.
Ballpark, tens of thousands, six figures?
Probably six figures. Just throwing it out there.
Everybody good? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Copies of the